The Canby Report was produced and recorded on the traditional territories of the Coquitlam, Mississaugas of the Credit, Anishinaabe, Chippewa, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat peoples.
It's June 11th, 2026, and there are 128 days left until the Vancouver municipal elections. This is the Canby Report. I'm Matthew Naylor.
I'm Ian Bushfield.
Well, howdy, stranger. It's been a little while.
Things happen.
Things happen. I got married.
Congrats, Mr. Naylor.
Yes.
We have lots to talk about here in Metro Vancouver.
But before we get to that, why? Why do we have this? It's because we get support from people like you at patreon.com/CanbyReport.
Yes, at patreon.com/CanbyReport. You can sign up, support the show, help us figure out a way that we can afford to do a bit more coming up, because there are only 128 days left until the elections, and we'd love to do this more regularly, but our lives are exhausting. So help us just hire someone to do it, and it would be great.
It seems like we are approaching a candidate for mayor for every day left in the election. Basically, COPE, in their eternal wisdom, has decided to run Stephanie Allen, a activist and a housing advocate.
And past podcast guest.
And past podcast guest. Absolutely. Yes, friend of the pod, Stephanie Allen. I mean, by that standard, it's friend of the pod, Ken Sim, so...
We haven't had Pete Fry, or did we have him for a short
We had him
thing?
on for a very short little thing.
Yeah. It's, I like Stephanie, I like her politics, and I like the frame she brings to it. And this is Cope embraces YIMBYism, in a way, as much as they will. And so, it's cool. I think Stephanie would be fantastic. It just feels late.
It does. And certainly there's been a lot of disorganization amongst the parties, and particularly on the left, in trying to figure out exactly who's running and what they're going to be running for. But apparently the Grand Cooperation Agreement results in 3 candidates for mayor all running against each other.
Listen, they are going to watch the vibes and see whose vibes are best, and from there graciously decide if the vibes are bad and they should step aside. At this point, it's hard to see Azaroff making that determination, as the Vancouver and District Labour Council has formally endorsed him for mayor, and also, as of a couple days ago, endorsed the whole OneCity slate, and has also said, we will make further endorsements, quote, pending the narrowing of the field of mayoral candidates. Basically telling Cope and Greens, drop your mayor candidates and we'll consider endorsing your councillors.
And you know what? I think this is great. Someone needed to lay down the law here, and the parties weren't going to do it themselves. So if the VDLC is able to actually push the parties into doing some kind of introspection and self-evaluation, I think that's fantastic, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, in some ways, it's rewarding the aggressive behavior done up to this point, where they have essentially tried to establish themselves as the default choice, but maybe that's all it took. I don't know. I don't live in Vancouver anymore. I don't have to vote for any of these people, but it does set up that if they don't get a majority and Azaroff does win mayor, he needs to try to get along with people who his party has struggled to make a good ground with up to this point.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering, could they not, I don't know what the provincial appetite for some kind of electoral reform in the city of Vancouver is, but if the candidates made it a platform plank to say, we're all running, the Greens and Cope are going to bite this bullet, and so long as the first item on the agenda is a resolution not only asking the province to do it, but like proposing the way in which it is going to be done for like ranked choice balloting at the very least, then they can all go back to squabbling at their leisure.
That was part of their agreement. The agreement they dropped back in April said they have agreed a shared priority for ranked ballots for future mayoral elections. Now, we have Supreme Court precedent from Ontario that a province can fuck around in a municipal election during said municipal election, and it's all fine. David Eby doesn't strike me as the kind to do such things or want to do such things, but he has the law on his side should he choose to have some fun.
No comment on that one from me. That's a political choice, and you know what? Eby could abolish Vancouver, like just by an act of parliament if you wanted to, but such is majoritarian rule in a Westminster system.
So I guess we'll see how this plays out with OneCity, Cope, and the rest. But like historically, this isn't too late to be announcing. It's just we've moved to a perpetual election cycle.
And that's fair enough. What I'm actually interested in is not the date for getting into the race. It's how far in advance can you drop out to get taken off the ballot? And I don't even think that that's necessary. Like if they decide in the dying hours of the campaign, how far in advance Allen or Fry, or say the Allen candidacy takes off, Azaroff, how far in advance would they have to drop out in order for that message to make its way out to the people that they've been campaigning to?
I think Ian Campbell dropped out as Vision's mayoral candidate in 2018 in early September. But Vision didn't do well that year either.
No, so, and not the hugest of issues. I think 2 weeks is probably still viable for saying don't vote for, how I asked you to vote for me, and please do continue to vote for the city council candidates, but don't vote for me, vote for Stephanie Allen instead.
I think ideally they want to get their name off before the City of Vancouver deadline for being on the ballot, and they definitely want to be off or taking that momentum out before early voting happens.
Oh, certainly. That's,
obviously.
But these folks have shown a ability to look at the big picture and take appropriate actions in a timely manner. They're just not great at it.
What another option always is, Matthew, is if you can't run for one party, yes, join another and just make sure your name is on the ballot. That was the choice Armour Valor has taken after he failed to get the OneCity council nomination, and has joined the Vancouver Liberals.
Huh. Well, it's a big tent party, I guess. I in this article on it includes the statement, he joined the Liberals due to some of the party's policies. No, that is not true. He joined the Liberals because they were going to let him run, and the man wants to get elected. There's truly, it seems very unprincipled to me, and maybe there's some ideological overlap between the Vancouver Liberals and OneCity. I certainly think there is, but I don't know. It's unseemly at the very least.
Yeah, it's a bit disrespectful, obviously, to OneCity, but we'll see how the voters treat it.
OneCity can earn my respect. I don't care about that one.
Fine. I had forgotten Maura Stillwell is running for the Liberals. What a big tent that is.
Yep. It's quite the team that they're building there.
Trying to defend his re-election bid, Ken Sim has been making choices these past couple months. At council, controversially, they have decided to push through a pause on the ban on natural gas heating and water heaters in the city. This is a move that drew, I was going to say record numbers to speak at council, but that's a meaningless statement these days when, 100 is a typical kind of churn out to something half controversial. But it's still substantial and drew a lot of backlash from big parts of the city. Vancouver had been a climate leader for a long time. And now they have decided to gut the city's climate law bylaws in an effort to, quote, make housing more affordable again.
It's like, why? I'm not exactly certain as to like what the rationale is, who is asking for this. But
The natural gas lobby, including one of their hired lobbyists from, what's his company's name, Westar Communications, Bill Tillman is a big lobbyist for.
Yes. Well, I mean, I knew that, and I was making a rhetorical point.
Okay.
But so yeah, like the natural gas lobby wants this. I don't think that it's a great thing to just continue introducing regulatory instability into the market. That's probably bad overall. Is the extra $10,000 that it will cost to install a heat pump versus a gas furnace / air conditioning system, which unfortunately in Vancouver is becoming more and more mandatory, and I think probably would be included on most new builds. Like, is that enough to chill housing construction? I can't imagine it is, because like structurally we've set up our housing system so that everything goes through these like boom and bust cycles of construction over like 7-ish. Like, there's nothing we're achieving here other than burning more methane.
Yeah. Vancouver was setting a nice, level for other municipalities to meet. One of the challenges is Vancouver does have its unique step code, and I think and building code, and they were arguing that bringing that into alignment with the rest of the province helps ease the red tape. But like, Vancouver is also a market of the size that it could be a little bit different, and there's still a demand to build in Vancouver. It's frustrating. A lot of people were really disappointed to see this, and it's an argument that the ABC councillors brought that didn't seem to be backed by any like clear evidence that this will make a difference, which is very funny given the next motion they argued that there's no evidence it will make a difference.
You're talking, of course, of the Vision Zero motion to reduce some street speed limits, specifically a number of the streets downtown, and also commercial and boundary.
Yeah, reducing speeds from 40 to 30 kilometers an hour. The city has had a Vision Zero goal for a while of 0 pedestrian fatalities on our roads, which is something we should hope all cities aim for. As part of that, staff recommended lowering the speeds on these streets based on work done in many municipalities around the world that have slowed their streets and seen fewer people die when cars go slower.
I mean, that doesn't shock me. It's physics. Like, it reminds me of that kind of first year physics, about perfectly elastic versus inelastic collisions, where, yeah, if people are hit by a car traveling at a slower rate of speed, they are going to die less.
Yeah, the injuries are less fatal. Peter Meisner from ABC introduced a motion to remove that recommendation. The council then passed the rest of the recommendations from staff, and it split along party lines, with ABC saying we don't need to slow down these roadways where you already can't drive that fast, except Boundary. Boundary's the weird one on there. I don't know which part of Boundary you can only do 40 on, but that road is built like a highway. The rest of them, I'm totally fine with people having to slow down.
Yeah, Boundary's a little baffling, and truly one of the most unpleasant roads to walk on. It just seems like there are so many ways that you could avoid walking on Boundary and so many incentives to do so.
But, this drew a number of speakers and a lot of controversy, and ABC stuck to their guns to keep this up. Some of the arguments from ABC councillors included there's not clear evidence, and we want to keep tracking fatalities on these roads before we make this decision. Like the gas one, it's clear who wants gas in your house, Fortis BC, and the people who sell furnaces, things like that. Why do people want to do 40 and not 30 on these roads? Is it just the road tax thing coming back?
I guess so, or like some deep-seated fear that any kind of making the roads worse or like the driver's experience worse might like actually make people want public transit. Maybe I don't know. It seems very silly to me, and to Lucy Maloney, it's she calls it a cynical move to increase ABC's popularity in an election year. And, if it quacks like a duck.
Well, Ken Sim's always looking for ways to improve his popularity, and I suspect one of the ways he's trying to do that is asking ChatGPT, as a few weeks ago he drew some controversy when he said that he uses 11 AI agents to help with his work every day.
Yes, what a confusing way of stating it, because he said that he uses these 11 AI agents to help him in his work. What exactly he meant by that, really unclear. Also, 11? That seems like many. I don't know if he's subscribed to 11 different AIs or if he's just created, agents through. I don't really trust the agents, honestly. They're a little worrying to me. The strong implication when you say something like that is that you are using it for the job. When you say I'm using them in my work, you're using them in the work that you do at your job, which is like what everyone understands those words to mean.
Matthew, when you interpret the words he's saying using their literal definitions, I think you are spreading misinformation and speculation that could discourage investment in Vancouver's growing technology sector. At least that is the statement Ken Sim put out after this controversy, when he tried to clarify that no, he doesn't actually use these AI agents for the highly regulated data within the city of Vancouver, and he doesn't use them. He says he doesn't use them at City Hall or on anything belonging to the city of Vancouver, because like any large organization, there are policies governing data protection and privacy. He is using these AI agents for personal learning, scanning news, tracking financial events, following thought leaders, and dietary planning.
Well, okay, great. I'm
even better, actually, in this article is where they asked David Eby what he uses AI for, and he said to fix his broken toilet.
I mean, that is more of an indictment of the fact that the rest of the internet is broken than like cool AI is good. And when we were chatting earlier today, I wanted to take a look at some comparative prices for the cost of installing gas versus electric in a home. And that's the type of research that might have taken 10-15 minutes, and it was done faster in this instance, and that's great. But also you have to take all this with a grain of salt, and it just seems like Ken Sim it just seems very uncritical. That's my biggest problem with Ken Sim and the whole Ken Sim mayoralty, is that he seems very credulous and uncritical of things that we should be trepidatious of broadly.
Yeah, I have no disagreement with that. I'm actually surprised we don't have a Vancouver supplement coming out from the mayor's office, or some kind of brain-boosting pill from his, I can't wait for his post-politics career where he really just leans into all of this, because if this is the filtered Ken Sim as mayor commentary, what's he going to be saying when, he doesn't have codes of conduct holding him in check?
Well, it's the question, of course, is how much of the whole Ken Sim, because we, of course, friend of the show Ken Sim, we've met him, we've interviewed him. He seemed, at least when we initially met him back in 2017, to be small business bro as a guy. But here it just seems like he is drifting further and further and further towards just being a hack and grifter.
He is still trying to get reelected, and he is still trying to do things that are popular, and one thing he believes is popular is being mad at drug users. And one of the things the city has pushed back on for several months has been the proposed overdose prevention site at 900 Helmkin that Vancouver Coastal Health was trying to set up in Yaletown. They had leased the facility and were set to start setting it up on June 1st. I don't think they were going to open the doors that day, but the lease would have started. And the city said, no, we don't want this. And the province finally did come in and say, fine, we won't open it there. And it's unclear what Vancouver Coastal Health now has to do with the lease. And it's unclear where drug users will be able to have a safe usage site.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, like, where drug users will be able to use drugs, and that, of course, is anywhere they want. Like, this is the whole fucking problem with opposing these sites, is that it doesn't actually cut down on drug use. Like, this isn't condoning it. This isn't, like, facilitating it. This is just literally putting it in a place so it's not in other places, and so that people don't die.
Yeah. I talked about this a bit with Scott on Politicos from the provincial angle, and it's just frustrating to see that ABC has decided to push this tough on crime, anti-drug use, stuff, which is really their brand since, they formed as a party. So it's not a surprising move from them. It's just still disappointing.
It's just like we I think should be trying to provide more supports for people to get off drugs, if that's what, like, you have to want help in order to use help. Otherwise, it's just people forcing you to do things. But, like, we've effectively given up on a large portion of the population who suffer from addiction and are just like, don't want to see them, don't care if they die. That seems to be the attitude that ABC is running on. It seems to be the attitude that Ken Sim believes in. And it's both short-sighted and counterproductive, and it's gross.
One of the counselors who's been trying to speak up for those who use drugs for whatever reason has been Councillor Sean Orr. Of course, Ken Sim and Sean Orr have had a number of run-ins over the years. As soon as Orr was elected, Ken Sim was calling Orr anti-Semitic for past social media posts Sean Orr had made. Orr filed a code of conduct complaint under the city's code, and the investigation finally came out from a law firm that said, yes, Ken Sim breached the code of conduct on 3 separate occasions for the comments he made that were uncouncilman-like, unmayorly-like, whatever, and it would be right for him to apologize, and if he doesn't, council should force him to apologize through a motion. Ken Sim did not apologize, and council got the option to pass this motion. What did they do, Matthew?
What did they do? It did not happen.
Oh, no. Instead, they decided to grill the Integrity Commissioner staff and representatives, arguing from councillors like Brian Montague that this was not a legitimate investigation, and ultimately dismissed the complaint and rejected any motion here.
It's just like, why have this body? I know that, like, all the tools that people can use can also be used against them, but it's really a failure of trying to, like, outsource or put at arm's length the evaluation and adjudication of these things. Unfortunately, this kind of becomes a provincial responsibility because it clearly can't be run at the municipal level, given the tools that the municipality has to enforce itself. Like, if the province wants to have a municipal ombudsman or a municipal, like, code of conduct officer that actually has teeth, I think that would be something that Vancouver politics should welcome.
Yeah, and the provincial government did actually introduce a bill to improve the code of conduct process. I think there was definitely still limitations to it, and Justin McElroy had some good threads criticizing it. But that bill is languishing, right? It didn't get passed before summer break, and therefore it's probably not going to be passed before the elections happen. It would be great to have that bill updated so that when the new council is sworn in or affirmed in, that they understand the rules. Because right now the current code of conduct rule is after the election, the council votes whether or not to even have a code of conduct.
Well, and I mean, good for those that...
What a stupid system. Like, they vote whether or not to have a code of conduct, which ultimately is not binding on them if they have a majority who doesn't want to take responsibility for it. Yes.
Like, there's so many people in government who, like, wail against, we can't let industry regulate itself because it doesn't work and they'll choose to do nothing, which of course is true. But like, look at the goddamn mirror, folks. Ugh. Anyway, speaking of massive and, I suppose, for the purposes of preventing litigation, alleged corruption, the World Cup is in town.
Yes, the games kick off today. Obviously, it covers all of Canada, US, and Mexico, with Vancouver getting 7 of the, I think it's 104 games that are being played over this next, whatever it is, 6-8 weeks. It goes for quite a while. And we're trying to figure out how much is this going to cost and is it worth it? I think we've seen a couple like international events come through, right? And there's a cycle to these things. Before they start, it's a lot of cynicism, a lot of this is going to be expensive, they're displacing people, all the critiques are very pertinent. Then it starts and people get excited and there's a vibe shift. And I can sense that right now. I can see it in the air with schools starting to talk about it to kids, and the propaganda starts going and people are like, I'm going to watch some games, because why wouldn't you? And then there's the aftermath where we have to decide, was that worth it? And like the Olympics went well for Vancouver, generally people think. But, where are we at with the World Cup? Well, we know it's going to cost a lot.
So basically, there have been some updated joint cost projections from the province, the city of Vancouver, and Co, or the BC Pavilion Corporation, as it is more formally known. And they have revised up their expected costs for the games that are happening in the city of Vancouver up to $729 million at the upper end, which is, whoo boy, quite a bit. It's so much money. These are expected to include about $200 million from the federal government, and the rest being borne by the province through PAVCO and the municipality.
There's a lot of different ways to try to estimate this, and the estimates we have right now are that this will generate about $600 million, but that includes the $200 million in federal government contributions. So $400 million in revenue to cover a $700 million. If you do some maths, Matthew, we could say $1 billion in additional GDP will be inserted into BC's economy. I think that one is over the next 5 years. Actually, it's up until 2030. Yeah, they assume we'll be increasing our revenue for that long.
Right. I know you said it runs for a while, but I didn't understand it to be running for that long.
No, but you see, we're going to make Vancouver world famous now, so people will keep coming here. The CBC article we'll link to has some nice comparisons with other economic studies and interviews a few experts who are a bit skeptical of the claims of long-term increased tourism from these kind of events.
Yeah. Also, we don't have enough hotels. It's like how it's like expecting it's if you build it, they will come. But they seem to be operating on this, if we don't build it, hopefully they just come anyway.
I love that it's going to take the World Cup and just 7 of the 100 games to teach people that Vancouver exists.
We had an Olympics. An Olympics. I know it's a Winter Olympics, but, still.
And it was all here. It wasn't shared across the continent.
Exactly. How many people are going to be okay, so just for argument's sake, presumably the people who are interested in and might learn of and become interested in Vancouver are people who are watching games that are here. So I guess what they are hoping is that there's going to be a ton of new tourists from Turkey, Qatar, New Zealand, Egypt, Switzerland, and Belgium, and also Australia. But
they already come here.
There are plenty
to get to Whistler.
Plenty of Australians passing through.
The direct benefits of having people come to watch the game and spend money locally, fine, I can accept that. And maybe there's some incurred because those people go, oh, actually, that was a really nice place to go. I only spent a couple 2 nights there so I could watch one game. I'm going to go back for a week. I'm sure that happens, but not at the scale. Or maybe they tell their friends that, oh, Vancouver was nice, you should go. So there's some spillover for sure, but...
No.
What's happening in Surrey? We don't actually really know.
Yes, well, there appear to be shenanigans afoot. At the very least, the current police chief of the new Surrey police force, Norm Lipinski, is gone. He's out. Some people on the police board have also resigned, and the former mayor and current mayoral candidate, twice over on both counts, is Doug McCallum, is accusing Brenda Locke of a coup.
Yeah. So Lipinski is no longer chief of Surrey Police Board. We don't know exactly why, but he was not voluntarily left. He was given severance. It sounds like, we don't know how much. He was fired at a special meeting, but Chappell, the chair of the police board, wasn't at that meeting and was frustrated to have not been at that meeting, and that's part of why I think he resigned. Another board member also resigned. We have a interim chief constable, that's Deputy Chief Constable Todd Matsumoto. But yeah, terminated without cause.
Terminated without cause, and of course, the interesting thing about this is that because the old chair of the board resigned, the new chair of the board, the interim chair, is a former Surrey Mountie named Councillor Rob Stutt, who was elected with Brenda Locke on her campaign to explicitly oppose the creation of the Surrey Police and roll back to the RCMP. It's something that he has tried to deflect by saying, well, I'm obviously wearing two hats. I'm a politician, but this is an HR matter, so, you know.
That raises so many more questions.
So many more.
The most we've seen to have gotten is it wasn't about his but it was about, like, it's unclear. It's really unclear. It's internal matter, internal policing matters. And, like, the police are usually secretive, but this feels like extra. We don't know anything.
Taking a look at the Port Moody race, there is a new mayoral candidate, and he is hailing from the ranks of the federal Conservatives.
Yeah, I thought we'd take a look at one of the, smaller municipalities around the region, and we could throw this in most of the upcoming episodes. But Port Moody's current mayor is Megan Lottie, former councillor, I believe, who's kind of taking a soft urbanist approach, like promoting density and development, drawing a lot of flack from that because Port Moody is not known as a community eager to grow. But her council is fairly united, with a lot of votes going 6-1 with her vision and approach for it. That lone opposition councillor is Haven Lerbiecki, who has announced her plan to run against Lottie in the upcoming elections as mayor. And Lerbiecki is forming a slate to run against. Lerbiecki's approach is generally kind of like left anti-urbanism, saying we are growing too fast and too dense, and we should put a brake on this and fight the province more. Ironically, Lerbiecki's husband is BC NDP MLA Rick Glumac.
Very good.
As well. And now we have, on the other side, Paul Lambert coming in. Lambert has previously run for federal Conservatives, as you mentioned. He has also run as a council candidate in Coquitlam a couple times, and obviously never won any of those. Lambert seems to be coming from the other side of the anti-urbanist view. Port Moody is growing too much, but we should have lower taxes.
So, we are generally pro-urbanist. That's, the whole motivating philosophy. Such that the Canby Report can be said to have a, enervating philosophy. It is probably new urbanism, and there are left and right reasons to support new urbanism, and I suppose there are left and right arguments that can be made by people who are not us against it. But I'll have to tell you to seek them out if you want. Otherwise, we're right, they're wrong. 'Twas ever thus.
So good luck, Megan, in your re-election bid.
Yeah, you know what? Let's do that. We're endorsing Megan Lottie for mayor of Port Moody.
Sometimes mayoral races are complicated, like in Vancouver. Sometimes they're not.
What might also be complicated is the water situation in Metro Vancouver. There are now stage 3 water restrictions that have been now forced to come into effect across the region. Basically, there is a large water pipe at the first Narrows crossing that brings us a bunch of water from the Capilano and Seymour reservoirs that are major water sources up on the North Shore. And it's not working right now. And so there isn't enough water.
Also, there's no snow. Usually there is a snowpack left at this time of year. We didn't get enough over the winter. It was a particularly mild winter. And so all the snow is gone early this year. And so it's not like we're out of water right now, but a question of how do we get through September is bright front and center on the Metro Vancouver Water Board's mind. And that's why we have gone to stage 3 water restrictions for the first time in like a decade.
And what does that mean? It means it's no watering your lawn ever. No,
Yep.
no, like nighttime watering. It's don't water your lawn at all.
Let it yellow.
Yep. You can still water vegetable gardens. You cannot fill pools, hot tubs, or water features. You can't wash your vehicles or boats, which are, last I checked, still vehicles, at home, except for windows, lights, mirrors, and license plates, and boat engines, of course. But you can wash them at a water-efficient car wash. I don't know. I lived in Vancouver for many years and had a car for a lot of them and never washed my car once.
I do sometimes when it gets particularly dirty, but I've never washed at home, probably because I'm lazy. And I'd rather just... I like going through the drive-through ones with the kids. They enjoy that. It's fun. But yeah, don't wash your cars at home. Don't fill your pool. And only hand water your vegetables. And we'll hopefully not have to go beyond this level of restrictions because temperatures get hot between people in those eras. I remember water restrictions was kind of the instigating factor for the Miles Gray death.
Indeed, we are coming up on the 5th anniversary of our heat dome. That is indeed the deadliest weather event in Canadian history, or deadliest natural disaster in Canadian history. So for those of you who have been listening, man, this show's been going for a while. Since the, like, I think it was like the Cruel Summer edition of the Canby Report way back in 2021. It was a bad time, and so far as we are able to, we should try and prevent that kind of thing happening again. As temperatures get hotter, if you know people who are vulnerable, make plans to go check on them. Make sure that people are going to check on you if you don't, show up. And especially if you have health conditions that might make you more susceptible to heat stroke. It is dangerous. This is like a deadly type of heat that is going to be visited on Vancouver more and more. Be ready for it, folks.
Support moves like New Westminster has done to require cool zones in every new construction because we need to make sure our housing is ready for us too. We also want to make sure we're staying safe outside when we're playing or when our kids are running in track and field events. It's a little bit lighter or different of a story that I wanted to end with because this debate is a novel one, not one I'd seen, but Richmond schools have been debating children's sports and whether they've gone, let's just say, too woke.
Basically, there has been a change to track meets, and that has included the elimination of ribbons and awards and a move towards gender-neutral competition. That is something...
For elementary schools only, right? For like K-5 track meets.
It feels like the opposite of giving everyone a participation trophy.
No one gets a ribbon now.
It's like, but like children know who won.
It's pretty obvious in a race, yeah.
Yeah, they're the first person, and like, wait, what are we telling people? What are we telling kids? Like, they understand competition. It just baffles me that like we can't recognize achievement because we're like, the kids know.
I have no strong actual opinions on this. I get why people are mad. I get the motivation for going for it because also it's elementary school and it doesn't fucking matter. It's very funny to me 2,300 people signed a petition demanding they reinstate ribbons for their kids. I couldn't be bothered to sign that petition of all the things happening in the world. However, my school wants to organize some sports. As long as the kids are having fun and generally safe, have at her.
But like, Sure, but like the competition makes it fun. Like the fact that you are competing for a thing. There are times when, like at trivia, if I'm not drinking because it's Lent, and I'm and I've won the pitcher of beer that comes with like winning the spot question or whatever, it's good to win the pitcher of beer, and then we just give it to the next table over because like it still feels good to win, and it's nice to be acknowledged. Like personal achievement is best, I don't know, validated by external validation. It just seems like dumb.
The thing that's never been clear to me in the reporting is whether these track meets are like everyone is forced to be a part of it, or if this is the like, all right, you have voluntarily signed up to be in the Richmond South Elementary, I'm making up a school, track team. And like those latter kids, yeah, they're competing. They're there to compete. But if you're forcing everyone like gym class, whatever, just go for personal records.
Sure.
I guess. I'm fine with
that's
that.
gym class. This is a meet. Like,
yeah. Anyway, it's a very funny debate that Richmond schools has gotten themselves into, and I look forward to the absolute shit show that is going to be their school board election based on this.
Yeah, there's going to be no other issue because like who has kids right now? It's the millennials. Like I remember getting participation like trophies, and do you know how many of them I've kept? None. Because they didn't matter. Like the kids know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kids didn't ask for those. Are you fine with them doing co-ed track meets to make it more controversial?
Oh, yeah. Like sure. Especially for like prepubescent prepubescent kids, there isn't the same level of like sexual dimorphism that even when it doesn't matter, it's nice to have a prize. Speaking of things that were nice to have and we don't have anymore, we end every episode of the Canberra Report with a little blast from Vancouver's past, which we call a Vancouverada. And this week's Vancouverada is the Vancouver International Festival, a festival that ran in the 50s and 60s and doesn't exist anymore.
Yes, this comes to us from the Canadian Encyclopedia. I was trying to find a previous, like we all know the big world events that have come to Vancouver, the Olympics, Expo, but what happened back in history? Well, back in the 1950s and late 40s, the Community Arts Council of Vancouver was trying to come up with a summer festival to like show off the city, and they came up with the Vancouver International Festival, modeled on the festivals happening in Edinburgh and Salzburg, like real centers of culture. And they're like, we'll do that here. This will be an opera concert artist series where we'll bring the world to Vancouver. And it did kind of okay. They had orchestral concerts at the Orpheum Theatre for a number of years. They had some federal grants supporting it. But like most things in this city, finances started to catch up with them, and eventually they just ran out of money.
I really think this is a useful way of reminding ourselves how different Vancouver was in the 50s and 60s. Like, take a look at an aerial picture of downtown from the middle of this festival in 1963, and you'll be like, what? Where is it? Where is any of it? Like, Vancouver didn't exist in any, like, tons of logs everywhere. That's the so many logs and not any marinas for billionaires to keep. Like, I don't even know if the Washingtons had managed to exert complete control over the North Shore seafront. But, like, God.
It's wild trying to imagine the people putting this on in that era wanting a, like, highbrow artistic event for the city that was predominantly loggers.
Yeah. It's wild.
Who was their audience?
Like, and let's not denigrate loggers. Loggers can appreciate, Bach and Rachmaninoff just as much as bankers can. And indeed, like, there's a ton of like working class music and theater that, is getting more and more studied, like cowboy Shakespeare stuff across the American West. Truly a ambitious thing that the Community Arts Council of Vancouver set out to do in 1958. And for 10 glorious years until the last festival in 1967, when Puccini's The Girl of the Golden West was produced by the Vancouver Opera Association, Vancouver was the site of an arts festival that has been consigned to the ash heap of history. And with that, we are going to consign this episode to the ash heap of history. For Leg and Boot Media, I'm Matthew Neeler.
I'm Ian Bushfield.
Good night.